you for visiting the Africa Rising Cycling Podcast, where we share the big and most interesting cycling stories from across the continent of Africa and from around the world where African cyclists are racing and riding.
Welcome to the Africa Rising Cycling Podcast. On this week's edition, we have an incredible guest with us, Matthias Schnapke, the owner of Team Bike Aid, a UCI continental team headquartered in Germany, very famous for supporting probably more African cyclists than any other team in the history of professional cycling. Welcome to the podcast, Matthias. Please give our listeners an understanding of your history and your journey into cycling.
I really love competition. I'm still doing competition for fun. So I'm a really competitive guy and like this, but I have no talent. And I always also used, let's say, 50% of my time to organize my sport. So even when I was really young, so the first regional mountain bike championships in our area, they didn't take place. So I organized myself, even though I was really young. So I opened a club and worked at the circuit to build a circuit and stuff like this. So let's say I kill my energy for the race to organize the race. And that's how I ended up. So that always, beside even when I was younger, racing a lot, still always organize also myself the sport.
So when did Bike Aid, from your point of view, what is the first year of Bike Aid?
Yeah, in general, like to make it as simple as possible, you can say 2005 is more or less the starting point of the club Bike Aid. And also, yeah, mainly the team activation or the team activities which we started, which was when we were younger, a German man amateur team and a woman team as well. There was this major point, like also about the media. So the German television shut down the coverage of the Tour de France in Germany. And in German news, when there was an article about cycling, it was full negative. The only thing what I don't agree is a journalist could not say cycling is dead, it doesn't exist anymore. And that's what they also did. So, and then we, let's say, or me, found it out by accident also, specifically cycling in Africa. I was 2013 at Tour de Faso. At this time, Tour de Faso was, let's say, the biggest cycling race in Africa. It was at this time, like popular-wise, bigger than Tour de Rwanda because it was, growing over the years. A few years they had even support from the ASO, so from the organizer of the Tour de France. It was really funny because there was this red Fiat cars at this time. And so there was one time a load of a container, whatever, with a few of this Tour de France cars. So for many years, they used the really old Fiat cars from the Tour de France at the Tour de Faso. But in 2013, I was there, and then I see this huge crowd at the road in Burkina Faso. The Tour de Faso is the biggest cultural whatever event in this country. So, and to see this changed, let's say, everything what I thought about cycling or what I think about what makes sense or how to see it with our Europe view and things like this. And this is, you could say this is one of the main reasons how we started the team and why we're doing it.
What I find fascinating is, I mean, Bike Aid becomes a continental team in 2013 with 4 African riders on the roster as a German team. Like, just let's talk the listeners through how you ended up with a continental team, which is a great moment, but then suddenly 4 riders. I think Abdul Rauf Akanga from Togo, Dan Craven from Namibia, and 2 Eritreans.
What we see directly from the beginning is for this young African rider to be one time in a Europe team, to get a passport with a visa, to get in the plane with another 18, 19, 20 years Europe, flying together, let's say, to China, and discover together the world, this impact, just even completely beside competition, just this impact to have one time the fair chance to take part on our global world. This have an impact for this person, hopefully positive, which helps him whatever to learn. He can learn good things. He can also learn that in Europe we do a lot of shit and maybe make it better, whatever the impact is, but it have a really big impact for him. It feels more senseless. If I use all my lifetime to organize, let's say, this stupid cycling, at least I should do it for people where it helps them maybe also for their future after cycling. So maybe
Yeah.
this is one way to explain a bit how we ended up with Africans.
It's a groundbreaking moment because even with the MTN Quebecer team at the time, it was mainly South Africans and a few Eritreans. But to have a guy from Togo out there racing in Europe in 2014 is a unique moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So in general, right now, yeah, mostly we have riders from East Africa and even mostly from Eritrea. So there is no barrier for us. They can come from everywhere. If you look at our racing schedule, this is something we can be a bit proud that we are ranked in the top 10 Conti teams worldwide, let's say from our race schedule. Like we have the most race days with the highest categories over the year. And with this, we are really on the limit. And we need to have riders which can go to these races from traveling, from their skills, from language, whatever. So this means, yes, we take the challenge to take riders from completely different background where we need to learn together, grow together, and it need time, no problem. It is not everything possible for us. Otherwise, it would be too hard for us or for the rider. What we try is to shift perspectives and to try to show how complex our world is and see things from all different directions. Rwanda is always a good example because also like years ago when Chuck Boyer and Kimberly organized there the center and the infrastructure was massive. The reality was whenever a rider would come from there in a Europe Conti team, he make a step back because there is no there is no full service care for riders in the Europe Conti team. Riders live at home, cook themselves, clean their bikes themselves, and having not a cook, a teacher, whatever, 24 hours around them. And especially in Rwanda, I don't like to hurt anyone there, but just to explain this experience, like Tour de Rwanda is in Rwanda like being a football player in Germany in the first Bundesliga. So if you are a young rider in Rwanda riding for the national team, the Tour de Rwanda, you are a national hero. The first time I arrived at Rwanda at the airport, Jean Bosco was the winner of this race the year before. So at the airport, there was this 12 on 6 meter big commercial posters for whatever companies. Yeah, so his hat was on. Yeah, something impossible to imagine in Europe that a continental rider or whatever would be on this kind of commercial level. It would be one of the most famous football player of the country. So this guy is an absolute superhero in his country. Wherever he stop with his bike, it will not happen that someone don't know him. And then he come to Europe and he understand, let's say at the first race, no one is waiting here for me. No one knows me. My level, what I learned from skills and bike racing was 60 guys on my home road is a completely different story than racing with 180 guys where everyone have a top level in the Europe professional race. And this is like a shock for this young guy. So we had also this kind of experience. So unfortunately or luckily, even this is a really nice story we always have to repeat. This small country, Eritrea, one of the poorest African countries, one of the smallest, really difficult economic and political situation. So this small country have not really a support infrastructure for cycling. They have not a lot what they can do, but they bring out the best African cyclists in total. So that's why we ended up at the moment a lot with Eritreans because we love to work with Africans. We would take Africans from every country, but also we like to find out good riders and try to grow with them.
Yeah, but they have to be good. I mean, and especially at the moment, if you look at the sport at the top level, you know, one of the things we always talked about with Africa Rising was development. And the idea was, well, sometimes these kids aren't getting on bikes till they're 15, 16, 17. So at least you have that period till they're an under 23. But now in world cycling with juniors getting hired, you know, it's you can only take the best riders, and Eritrea consistently. And you talk to the Eritreans and they tell you like it's because they race. You know, every Sunday or every 2 Sundays there's racing. And the problem is in Africa now, with if you look at something like South Africa, which is a rich country, or rich in some terms, has no races. You know, there are no UCI races in South Africa. So I think as a team in Europe, you shouldn't feel guilty in any way that you can't take riders from these other nations because they're just not ready to race. And what I find fascinating with Eritrea, like you say, is a small country. When they have their national championships in June, it's 50-50 who wins that race. There could be 5 world tour riders on the start list, and some local guy could win the race. So I think what you guys do is you give a platform to these guys to come into Europe, race on an incredible calendar that Bikeaid has, and either you hope they stay with you, but then if you look at someone like Milkias, I mean, you're probably frustrated. He should have stayed probably another year at least. It would have been nice. But you've given him the platform to go to Ineos Grenadiers on their Devo team, and I think that's where you have to take a lot of your credit. Is you are one of the only teams giving a platform to these young riders, and that's why they contact you, and that's why Bikeaid is so well known.
There's room for every kind of teams. Everyone can develop his own idea, his own structure, his own concept, his own vision. No problem. And yeah, also we don't say it have to be like we do it. No way at all. And even in cycling culture over the years, there are different cycling teams which getting famous and identity of their local, where they come from. In general, our culture in cycling, especially why we have, also with those team structures, it is not about nationality. It is about to make a team from wherever the rider come, which fit in this team. In a really small puzzle, what we can do here is that an 18, 19 years young Europe rider living sleeping in the same bed at a race in China with a rider from Africa. This is a huge impact because these two people together expect the world, discover the world in a way they never ever would do together. So the value for me, it's much higher to bring them together and experience something. I know also that our young riders here, when they were 2-3 years on our team, like we had this massive great guy, David Yamane, for many years on our team, which have a, when you start speaking with him about his family life, how he grew up, how much he suffered to get into cycling, and he laying after a stage with a Europe guy in the bed who say, oh, this was so hard today. Yeah, David can answer him questions that he know the last thing here, what he experienced here, that this was hard, my friend. So you never really see something what was hard in a life. So this is a magic thing which comes together.
We always say, well, actually, it's better to have the mix of people because you want people to learn from each other. And that's, again, where Bikeaid, I think, has been hugely successful. I mean, you and I think, argued about the numbers once, but I think you've had 25 Africans from 10 countries. Is that right on Bikeaid now?
I think 99% it's correct. Maybe we have a small mistake.
It's around that number. But to give it kudos, right? That is the highest number, in any team. Outside of MTN Quebec, but it's an incredible achievement to bring that many riders.
Our first African rider, or one of in the first year, was Meron Emmanuel from Eritrea. Beside him, Maxab Debesay. So Maxab Debesay, let's say from the sporting thing, when we start as a German Conti team saying we do something with African cycling, at this time, this was no one ever in Germany heard about. So there, like you said, there was just a year before the moment with Daniel Tecklemeyer not having for 2-3 days the mountain jersey, and the first time at all media start to take a bit of look into African cycling. Yeah. So everything what we did was totally new. In our first year, Maxab Debesay come to our team. He got selected as or voted as what was it, African Cyclist of the Year. He was winning the UCI Africa ranking for the year and getting then into the World Tour team. So let's say in our first year already, we did, let's say, the best case example what we can do if we say we try to develop African cycling. Yep. But the nicer, so this is the sporting side, but mentally or emotionally, the much nicer story is like when I see now, I'm still more or less every week with Meron Emmanuel in contact. And Meron Emmanuel was one of our, the first Africans we had in. Yeah. And at this time in our, let's say, company, where we organized a team, we had even a bike shop in to whatever, get the income. And like it always is, when you ended up with Africans in your team, they ask, can you help me? How can we get parts to Africa? Because I cannot buy this and this and this. And then as a German, Yeah, I took him as how do you say, at the desk, at the counter, at the cash machine, at the computer. Yeah. And said, look, I can sell you a part, but I tell you now what it means in Europe, fiscally, tax wise, whatever, because like, once again, stereotype talking, it's not an African market. It's not you can give me a coin, I give you a part, that's it.
Yeah.
So I tried to explain him many times, and even he worked with me at the computer, and I show him how to make receipts. What does it mean? Why is there sales tax on? What does sales tax mean? Whatever.
Oh, wow.
So, and I thought, oh shit, what I'm talking to this young guy, he maybe think I'm stupid. The only thing what he like is to have, how can I get a chain to Eritrea? And this stupid German guy make a really complex thing out of it. So I just tell you this because what happened in the end, Meron Emanuel today have the best, biggest, or more or less only big bike shop in Eritrea where young riders can getting parts
Oh,
from.
wow.
So
Fantastic. I've not heard that story before. That's really, I remember him being on the team way back then. That's incredible. I wanted to ask you another question because if people look at the Bikeaid jersey, they'll see dead center in the middle is the Africa map, and this represents your Ride for Africa campaign. Can you just talk our listeners through what the campaign is and what it does?
yeah, we are always hungry to have a jersey which is cool, which looks good. We don't like to have Italian style jerseys with whatever 38 logos on in 58 different colors. So we try to have a jersey which people like. We like to make attention on something which is African cycling, and we do it. So we work with African cycling many years. So we said it's not wrong. So that's why we're doing it. And in the end, we were really surprised even about the feedback that it was a really good thing. Many people start to ask us about our jersey. So what you said, at the moment we have at the front, we have the outline of the African continent on. In the back, but this is more, let's say, insider, there's even the outline of the federal state where our team is based. So, and like this, we just like to show the connection between we are a German team, specifically a team from the federal state Saarland, which is our home. But African is we have even on the outline, but you need to go really close. It's say with really small letters. It's say at the African outline where our heart is, and at the back it say where our home is. So, and the best impact this jersey can have is that people start to ask us about the jersey. So it's a perfect introduction point to start about African cycling. People see this jersey and say, "Oh, what is this? I never saw this," or "It looks different to another Europe professional team jersey." And then you have an easy entry point to bring African cycling on the topic.
This year, you've got 3 Eritreans wearing that jersey, and I think you may disagree, but I think they're the 3 strongest Africans you've probably had in Bikeaid. Nahom Ephraim, who I think everyone knows from the men's junior race in the World Championships in Rwanda, and I think you can talk to him a little bit. I mean, I think he received his race bike and raced it the other day and got a top 10 in a UCI race. So I think we can understand his quality. There's Evan Yaman, who again is not tested hugely, but everything I hear from Eritrea says that he is a real star for the future. And then Yoel Habtib, who's been on the team a couple of years, but still only 22, but a highly experienced and quality rider. Like, how do you feel about these 3 Eritreans?
Like, all these riders we had, they are different, and everyone have different qualities. And with everyone, you see also different things which need to develop. David Yemane was a world class climber. He did things in race where I can say, to find World Tour riders with this mindset doing this, you will maybe even not find, because he had also big problems technical wise. In every descent, he lost time.
I remember hearing that. He doesn't like going downhill.
Yeah, so sometimes he did things like in television you cannot, when you like, I watched Tour of Turkey, whatever, big mountain finish, and I'm in contact with the sport director at place, so I know what's going on, and no one would believe this. So let's say there's a full race going in a final climb, 15Ks or whatever, and then they're going 8 or 12 guys in, and after 4Ks of the climb, you see at the bottom of the screen there comes a Bikeaid jersey back. and this is David Yamano. So, and then you call your sport director and say, yeah, what was going on, from where he comes? Yeah, he dropped the 4th time now in the descent and lost about not 10 seconds, 30, 40, 50 seconds in the descent. So he come from alone at the bottom of the climb back to the race decision group, and then is still in the game. Mostly he did not win then, because also, sure, there's also at one point a limit. But even to have this mindset to come back again and again and be so strong in the climb. So when you say who is the biggest talent or the best riders we had, like, first of all, you have to name guys like David Yamana, where you can see all this, when we speak about African cycling, that physically, mentally, there's huge talent. But cycling is different. I have no clue, but my description about marathon running, you need a pair of shoes, you go at the start line, you run as fast as possible, and you have to learn what is over 2 hours possible, your speed. Cycling is a really complex sport in terms of the behind the scenes tactics,
100%,
about the
100%.
The group dynamic. So, like, just to overpoint, it will not happen, because this guy is once again a different thing. But like Tadej Pogačar, okay, at the mountain finish, it's a different story. But if the whole bunch don't like that Tadej Pogačar win the Tour de France, no way at all he would not win it, if everyone working against him. So you don't win the race because you're just the strongest. A lot need to
100%.
get together.
I keep seeing recently all these references to, well, we can create cyclists in marathon running clubs and marathon running areas, and it's a completely different discipline, and it makes no sense to say, if there's an area, I mean, I read an article today saying in Kenya, they were like, oh, well, that's where all the distance runners come, so we can develop cyclists in Kenya because we have marathon runners. I was like, that's not logical jump.
We were involved in a Kenyan project before, with the first people also to start cycling development in Kenya. And this was based exactly on this question. Was a Singaporean commercial photographer who have the big businessman as a friend, and they visiting Kenya together. And then they said, why the hell they win every marathon and you don't see them in cycling? It's an endurance sport. From the body skills they bring with, living at the altitude, whatever, maybe the same thing. So should be the same talent. So why they are not visible in cycling? In the end, the answer is simple, because cycling is so way more complex. So also there, the answer is simple, why the Eritreans are successful now, because the Eritreans have already a history of a few generations where the knowledge from real racing experience gets teach to the next. Naum Ephraim is a really good example. What he did at his first UCI race after his juniors, I have to be a bit careful, because even I don't like that he listened to it, because I don't like to get him too much under pressure. He raced Tour of Hellas, which is a 2.1 race with Europe pro teams. And this guy is not a full sprinter. He is a bit of a climber, puncher, but he's not a full speed, high speed bunch sprinter guy. But at stage 1, he was on place 5, and at stage 2, he was on place 6. So I thought about, take a look into it a bit deeper, what it means if you go, let's say, in the top 10 of the best riders in the world and check their first race day after the juniors. What results are they able to do? So if you look at whatever, Vingegaard, Van Aert, Pidcock, and all these guys, they do also good results. But what Naum Ephraim did at his first race after his juniors is exactly in this range. This is a huge result.
It's incredible, isn't it?
On
a brand new bike as well, right? Like he really had much time on the bike.
He had one day before on the bike. So like this was like a massive result. But now comes the but, because sure, we start directly thinking, oh, what will happen now if he would continue like this? If he would continue like this, even we could not hold him in the team. 1 or 2 months later, he would be already in a top class World Tour team, because this is like massive even for Europe guy. And imagine that this is a guy who come from Africa. He did not check at his PCS, whatever. He did never do racing outside Africa. He just did the World Championships, the African Games, and the Eritrean Championships. That's all what he did. He did no Nation Cup races before. Like, he had come really out of zero and make directly a proper result. But I would say also hard to decide it for myself, but I would say it was good what happened the days after. He crashed with, let's say, you could say, like in the hard view of a Europe sport director, you could say he crashed because he have no bike skills. So he did some mistakes and crashed. And maybe this is even really good for him, because if he would fly up too quick, maybe it would limit to still think about, stop. This guy comes from the juniors right now, is 19 years old, and give him the time to learn. Yeah. So even
100%.
ourselves, we have to protect even ourselves to don't start dreaming with this guy too quick. Whatever, give him the time. Don't expect anything from him even after those results. The first message I sent him, I said, look, please, you know yourself what it means, what this result is, but really no pressure. Don't any build up expectations to yourself. Just be open, try to learn, and look from day to day what cycling bring now to you. It will come, but we don't start with.
He has a good group around him, right? I mean, he has your guys, he has the Bike Aid team. I know that like Henok Mulabran trains with him when they're in Eritrea. Henok is obviously a World Tour rider on Astana, but he's another Bike Aid alumni. So I think he's one of those riders that has been training and I think Daniel Tekla Hymanot is now coaching a lot of the U23 riders in Eritrea. So he would have had some pretty high-end coaching recently.
Even Yamane was also like this rider. This is also like a first-time experience for us with an African rider. I was not too much into his history before, when really just when he come to Germany and also explained me. Like, this guy was 1 year in the Philippines in a continental team. And so what he did before is something what maybe a Europe or maybe more US guy or Australian guy would do if he tried to find somehow an access into cycling and to do UCI races. So he did by his own motivation, finding somewhere in the world a team in a country where he had no clue, didn't speak any language, but somehow getting access to this team and getting a contract there.
Yeah.
So, and then he was living 1 year with his Philippines team. And he said it was a hard time for him because he were there with teammates speaking no English. His English was also still not good. He made himself a really, really hard effort how to find his way into cycling. And then the year after, he was on a Turkish continental team, being with Turkish teammates in the room, where also sometimes English is not there. And then he said also sometimes this was a really hard life for him to be in a team. He couldn't talk with his teammates, but still he had the races. He organized himself the way how to get access to races. And so what I like to say is that this is the first time we get a full adult African rider in our team.
Well, we can wrap up today with some vaguely breaking news about Bike Aid, because I think you've got a race coming up in a couple of weeks, which is pretty massive. You've been invited to the Tour de Wallonie, up against a load of World Tour teams, and will you have all 3 Eritrean riders racing potentially, or are you still deciding on the squad?
No, we have them all here now, like especially with the Africans. To explain it really short, we have always this problem of the limited visa time. So we have somehow to fix together a good season for them, maybe with some races outside of Europe at the beginning of the season, and then in the end again, and then the middle block in Europe, because mostly we have no chance to get, let's say, a full 1 year visa. Tour de Wallonie, it's a race we did the first time now. It's a Pro Series race. It's even if there are a lot of real big races in Belgium, but it is the only or the biggest stage race in Belgium, because in Belgium and Netherlands there is no World Tour stage race. So you can say it's the biggest Belgium-Netherlands stage race. And yeah, also this is something where I'm not afraid to be proud on that, what I said also in the beginning. Like, we always striven to somehow get the best possible racing schedule together. As a Conti team means the highest possible races. We like to get the best possible races. And as a Conti team, we are not at the priority at the Point Pro race in Belgium to get invited. So we have to wait that there's a spot free.
We will do our job at Africa Rising, where we normally speak to all the commentators and give them data and facts and figures on all the African riders. So that Bike Aid team will they'll be briefed on the Bike Aid team. So we'll share some of your stories as well. Matthias, thank you so much for your time today. I really it's a really inspirational story, Bike Aid, and it just seems to keep going thanks to the generosity of all of your supporters in Germany and around the world. And good luck with Wallonie. We'll be sharing the results. And thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation, Jeremy.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Africa Rising Cycling Podcast. If you like what you have heard, please do share our podcast with your friends and on social media. Leave us a review or even make a donation to Africa Rising Cycling. All of this will help us to continue to bring you fascinating stories about African cycling.